Here's a recipe for whole wheat pita bread that is only 3 ingredients and takes 3 minutes to cook. So the first thing we do is we empty 1 packet of dry activated yeast into a small bowl, and then we add 1 cup of warm water, about 100 degrees, but you can just measure it by hand. A tiny pinch of sugar will let you know if the activated yeast is good. If, after about 3 or 4 minutes, you see this happening, you've got good yeast. That's a good sign. And we only added a few grains of sugar, so it doesn't really add anything to the recipe. Should have more of a milky texture now, as opposed to just water with grains in it. Now, rather than kneading the dough by hand, I prefer to use a KitchenAid mixer with the dough attachment. So pour 2 cups of whole wheat flour into the bowl and put it on its slowest setting, and then very gradually add the yeast mix. If you pour it all in at once, it's likely to result in uneven dough. So take a few minutes and pour it in slowly. You'll begin to notice that the whole wheat flour becomes more and more coarse as you add the remaining yeast mix. And then at some point it begins to resemble sort of a ground beef texture and actually cleans the inside of the bowl for you, sort of. And here we can see it actually has dough texture. So the next step is to separate it into 6 even-sized little balls, or however many you want to make, but just make sure they're all pretty much the same size. Squeeze all the air out of the dough and then roll them into little balls. Very simple. And then we roll them out using a roller. The great thing about this particular recipe is that it doesn't result in sticky dough, so you don't have to constantly flour the rolling pin or the table or anything like that. And I find that I press hardest in the middle and then release the pressure as I get toward the outside edges. And just try to get them as circular as possible. Some of them are going to have, some strange looking edges, and that's fine. It's not going to affect how they cook or how they taste or anything like that. And then we let these rise for 30 minutes. And at the 25-minute mark, flip them all over very carefully and let them rise for the last 5 minutes upside down. At this point, I would start the oven. Set it to 550 degrees and put a pizza stone in it while it's heating. We want that pizza stone to be 550 degrees, like the oven. Then we just transfer however many you want to cook at a time. I cook 3 at a time, and it only takes 3 minutes. I'm going to speed this up so that you can see them rise, but they fill up with air perfectly every time. And they came out great. If you cook them too long, like say 4 or 5 minutes, when they cool down they might be a little too firm. What you want is that nice, sort of chewier texture. Here's the second batch. Sometimes they balloon up a little unevenly in the beginning, but they will eventually completely fill with air. And there's also nothing like your home smelling like a bakery, so the rest of your family's going to love when you make these. Here's something else too. When you squeeze them and then release, they pop back into shape. Give this 3-ingredient recipe a try. I promise you'll love it, and you can add all kinds of other seasonings to it and never have to buy pita bread ever again.